Rules-light role-playing games like Dungeon World, Mork Borg, and Old School Essentials will never be as popular as Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder. And the reason is simple.
And today I'm going to show you how to become an absolute insane force of nature in Baldur's Gate 3.
In today's video, I will be sharing my Hexagon build in
Hello,
Baldur's Gate 3.
my fellow dwellers of the
Today we're going to take a look at the Warlock class, one of the three main...
So you're gonna play Curse of Strahd, huh? You're gonna step into the misty lands.
The party
of
is trapped in the
Barovia?
mysterious Demiplane of Barovia in one of 4 ways. The
In
land
this
is
video,
run by...
I want to impart to you 13 things that I wish I had done differently in retrospect.
Pathfinder 2e is the best RPG ever made, but if you use these 5 rules, you are wrong. I run this game rules as written.
And welcome to the Psychic Class Deep Dive for Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Personally, for my games, I found the downtime rules a little bit disappointing, but that's because they're designed to do a very specific thing, which is not break the game and give characters things to do during long...
Okay, that was pretty cool. But what does a montage of other people's Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, and even Baldur's Gate 3 content have to do with why rules-light games will never be successful? Well, let's see what happens when we look up Dungeon World on YouTube. And let's check Mork Borg. And finally, Old School Essentials. Did you notice a pattern here? In case I'm on your second monitor, which if I am, rude, the only content that exists for the rules-light examples that I mentioned are reviews and actual plays. Whereas if you look up D&D, you'll find stuff like Forgotten Realms lore and holy crap, that's a good thumbnail. Sorry, I meant updates from the latest Unearthed Arcana. If you look up Pathfinder, you'll find an overview on the new Kineticist class, how to pick a class, which once again, that is a great thumbnail, and why spellcasting is better in Pathfinder than in D&D. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? The 2 most popular RPGs on the planet have more content than the make-believe shit you're into. Not just more content, but more varied content, because there's far more to talk about. D&D 5th edition can be a convoluted mess. The pre-written adventure paths aren't the most intuitive things to run in the world. And even if you do manage to scrape a session together, they can probably be run way better. That opens the door for channels like Lunch Break Heroes for giving you tips and tricks on how to run the pre-written adventures better. Pathfinder gives you a billion character options. And contrary to what the Pathfinder hardos tell you, if you f up your build, you are going to have a terrible time, which opens up the door for D4 deep dives to make an hour-long build video. But rules-light systems like Dungeon World, Mork Borg, and Old School Essentials are fairly simple and straightforward. Dungeon World is a narrative-focused powered by the Apocalypse game, so build doesn't even really matter. The moves you unlock only exist to enable mechanics for whatever you want your character to do, which, shut up, you know what I meant. And the game actually does a really good job of teaching new dungeon masters how to actually run the game. Old School Essentials limits your build to what class and what race you're picking. There aren't any subclasses, there aren't any feats that you can pick later on. If you're a spellcaster, you get to choose spells, but that's pretty much it. And in terms of GMs, as long as you know how to run 5e, which there are a million videos of on the internet, then you're pretty much set. And if you're playing raw Mork Borg, there are no builds. You just have items that your character is carrying, and that defines what you can do. And in terms of DMing, once again, there's nothing specific to it that you would need to know that you couldn't learn from a 5e video. This simplicity is kind of a double-edged sword. It makes it way easier for you to get into the system and to introduce your friends into the system, but it doesn't leave much room for the out-of-game experience, which I think is far more important for a game's popularity than how well the actual game works. Think about it, we spend far more time not playing role-playing games than actually playing role-playing games. And when a game is super simple and straightforward, there isn't really that much to talk about when you're not playing the game. You're pretty much limited to how great your sessions went and arguing that your obscure game is way better than someone else's other obscure game that they prefer more. You can't really dive in and discuss builds or how to run the game because DM advice is kind of universal. And furthermore, Dungeon World doesn't have an official setting, so you can't really do lore videos of that. Mork Borg does have its own in-house lore, and a couple of people have tried doing videos on the subject, but there isn't much information supplied supplied by Free League. And Old School Essentials has no campaign setting whatsoever, so you can't do lore videos for that. Furthermore, both D&D and Pathfinder are, for lack of a better term, alive. The games have updates, they have news, which once again gives people more things to talk about than just, my game's better than your game, and listen to how great my campaign is, even though you really probably don't care. I mean, people who play D&D and Pathfinder still do talk about those things. It's just, they have more things to talk about. Now, don't get me wrong. I think systems with simpler rules are far superior to Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. It's just that the level of simplicity that you get from these games doesn't really help build a social infrastructure. And social infrastructure is how you grow the popularity of games. So what's the solution? Well, I have no idea. I'm not here to solve problems, and I don't even know if a lack of things to talk about outside the game is the real reason for why these games will never be more popular than D&D and Pathfinder. But I'm sure you know what the real problem is, and I'm sure you have a solution for it. So you should totally tell me what that is down in the doobly-doo, as DM Jesus Matt Colville says. And then you should totally watch this video on why you should probably play a rules light RPG, because they're great. And then you can say you're welcome, because thank you so much for watching.